Disney isn't playing a very good game right now. They're risking alienating about 10 million subscribers/fans for something that should have been resolved months ago. They're actually fighting with a competitor that has a massive advantage and makes far more money than they do. And to what end? Well, only Bob Iger knows, and he's done nothing but make terrible decisions over the course of the last decade, including coming back to Disney and pushing Bob Chapek out of the way. But that's just part of the equation. We need to understand what it is and what's going on right now that puts Disney at such risk. Here we go. Now, before we get started, just a real quick reminder, I'm trying to get to 50,000 subscribers. If you are not subscribed, please consider doing so today. I will consider that a favor and say thank you right now. Thank you for subscribing, turning on notifications, and of course, hitting the thumbs up button right now because that really helps. But what's going on right now at Disney is nothing short of flabbergasting. When you take a look at stories like this from Deadline, Disney asks YouTube TV to restore ABC for Election Day as carriage talks continue. You see, Disney decided we're no longer going to give you access to any of our channels anymore on your YouTube TV platform. You see, when there's a carriage dispute, the parties at fault are the ones that are, well, trying to negotiate a pact or a deal. Disney always works in bad faith, trying to rob any carrier of any kind of profit from their material. And a lot of that's for a very simple fact that they can't afford to pay the television rights for sports without somebody else at least underwriting the bill. And now, because of the relationship they have with YouTube, they're trying to get YouTube to underwrite their terrible sports investments. And what's even worse is right now, those sports investments are at risk of causing Disney infinite amounts of danger. You see, well, there's a lot of questionable things happening with sports right now, whether it be the NBA or some illegal poker gambling and some other things that have been shown to be at risk. Federal government doesn't like things like that. And I have to tell you that you only get an exception, an antitrust exception, if the government trusts you. There's no reason to trust you anymore, considering now this gambling issues spilling over into the NFL and even college sports. Once again, you can't trust anything that's going on the courts or on the fields, and that's not a great place to be. But set that aside for now. There is no carriage deal in place so that people can watch their sports. 10 million people watch professional football, and they were looking forward to Monday Night Football last night. But the story doesn't end there. It ends with Election Day, which is today. Across the country, there are several elections taking place, and that coverage is going to be severely hampered. I would say it was going to be hampered anyway, no matter what, because ABC News is compromised with Snuffleupagus there in the center of the picture. But let's just move on and into this story and the successive one, because you can't afford to alienate 10 million fans. Disney, it doesn't look good. From the story, Disney is asking YouTube TV to restore ABC to its pay TV bundle for Election Day on Tuesday, which is today. This is as a matter of public interest as the companies negotiate a carriage renewal. ABC, ESPN, and other Disney networks went dark Thursday night after the distribution talks failed to yield a deal. Already, college football, the entire Saturday slate, was eliminated, completely wiped out, and Monday Night Football, featuring the perennially high-rated Dallas Cowboys, appears to be the next casualty of the standoff. Of course it is, and of course it did. In a statement provided to Deadline, a Disney spokesperson said, despite the impasse that led to the current blackout, we have asked YouTube TV to restore ABC for Election Day so subscribers have access to the information they rely on. Sadly, for ABC, you can watch election coverage anywhere, including the number one competitor and the number one leader in ratings right now, Fox News. ABC tried to dive underneath the blanket, the warm blanket of public interest, saying that they hope YouTube TV will be able to take this small step for their customers while we continue to work towards a fair agreement. Does that seem reasonable to you? The networks, the Disney company deciding to shut down carriage. But hey, can you bring it back for one night to help out our completely compromised news organization, ABC News, and help try to restore Snuffleupagus to some kind of credibility? Although I don't think that would work at all. And when queried about this, and this is an interesting part of the story, A YouTube rep did not immediately respond to Deadline's request for comment on the Disney request. YouTube TV, which launched back in 2017, has grown into a dominant pay TV provider with 10 million subscribers. That's 10 million people being alienated by Disney's greed or their desire to not pay for their terrible mistakes. Given the growing scale, the operator has had a string of high-profile carriage battles with major programmers. Univision, of course, those networks have been dark since late September, but NBC Universal, Fox Corp, and Paramount all reached agreements without blackouts. Now, again, they have a little bit more tolerance for what they're willing to pay for, but YouTube doesn't need to do Disney any favors. They can pretty much analyze what kind of return they get for their investment in the Disney networks, and it doesn't seem to be much, which is why Bob Iger may have been considering parting with a bunch of properties at the middle of the year. Nobody will forget the fall apart Fubo deal or any of the other things that happened halfway through the year that were basically just fishing line to string investors along. But we're not done, because this is just part of the story. Sports are a big deal, and from this New York Post story, you can find that theirs is a little bit more questioning of what's going on right now. At least their offering is where YouTube TV Disney War stands with Monday Night Football in jeopardy. Honestly, I think it stands nowhere. I think if I were in charge here, I would be leveraging their little political opportunity for ABC News against Monday Night Football and say, well, you're going to have to give us Monday Night Football in order for us to give you your, special coverage on our platform. We're sorry, you're going to miss out on ratings that you need to pretend to your investors make you important. Well, you're not that important to ABC News, and you're third place at best, if not closer to 8th or 9th. You might even be behind PMS NBC. I don't know. But I do know this. YouTube TV subscribers are set to miss out on Monday Night Football, and of course they did. As of Monday morning, YouTube TV and Disney have yet to resolve their contract dispute that resulted in the live streaming service pulling ESPN, ABC, and other Disney networks on Friday. That means YouTube TV won't carry the final game of the NFL Week 9 between the Cowboys and the Cardinals. From Arlington, Texas, this usually appeals to the broadest possible audience. Now, 10 million customers did miss out, and barring a deal being struck somehow, which it wasn't, this is where we stand. ESPN said there was nothing new to report Monday morning. The NFL did not immediately respond to a request for comment. I think they'd be pissed. And despite our best efforts, we have not been able to reach a fair deal starting today. Disney programming will not be available on YouTube TV. This means you will no longer be able to watch channels like ABC and ESPN or access recordings of these networks in your library, YouTube TV wrote in an X post last Thursday. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think there's anything that could happen to resolve this quickly. I think Alphabet has done some analysis of what ABC/ESPN is worth, and they found it lacking. And again, I find them lacking too. Lacking in a lot of different ways, but they're lacking like general honesty in telling everybody else that, yeah, they made some very poor sports rights deals trying to make sure that places like YouTube didn't acquire them for themselves, which I'm surprised. I always thought Google/Alphabet was going to be out there running forward trying to get sports rights, because the only thing that seems to move the needle as far as advertisement goes is live events. And you can't beat live sports for live events because there aren't enough concerts out there or even interesting artists to make those concerts to sell anything. So here we are with roughly 10 million YouTube TV subscribers missing out on many Week 10 college games last weekend, and obviously the NFL going forward. This is going to be very bad for everyone concerned. This means that everybody who scrambled to watch college football this last weekend are going to be doing the same thing, well, on Monday night, which is just behind us. They'll also be doing it for everything else going forward, and I promise you they're not scrambling to go find ABC News. Nobody is, which is a big problem for Disney. Of course, this means, according to the story, other streaming services certainly benefited with an influx of new subscribers as fans of teams in the ACC, Big 12, and SEC playing on ESPN, ESPN2, and the conference networks that they run couldn't watch any of the games. So you saw a lot of people joining up for a lot of things, probably very temporarily. YouTube TV is roughly 10 million subscribers. It's actually a little higher now, but we'll get those official numbers here on the next quarterly. The customers have ditched linear cable in favor of streaming to watch television networks, and I did that years ago. Most people did. As a matter of fact, right now, everything that I do and watch is streaming. So this is cutting their nose off despite their face, no matter what Disney wants to play this as, for both Disney and for YouTube TV. The two parties had a deadline of last Thursday to reach a deal. Saturday was the second day Disney networks and recordings of shows on its networks were removed from YouTube TV, and I imagine that it will continue. I don't see this solved anytime soon, but I would like it to be, and you probably do too. Most importantly, we've got to ask ourselves a question. Did we go the wrong direction when we jumped into the cord cutting and jumped into the streaming side of the equation? Did we cut ourselves short? Are we now spending more money on streaming services than we were on our basic cable subscriptions and obviously our favorite sports channels? I think it's quite possible we're now paying far more for what we used to get for far less. And I think that's kind of sad. The promise of streaming seems to have disappeared rather rapidly. At least that's my assessment. What's yours? Let me know your thoughts on the idea of moving from, cord cutting to streaming, the ideas of all of these various networks now being tied to a subscription model. And let me know if you think that Disney is probably the worst pay-to-play vendor out there. And if you think that this sports situation is going to hurt Disney in the long run. Again, let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. And as always, be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, and until next time, see ya! For real.